Hey guys, before we go anywhere, I just want to say a massive thank you to today's video sponsor, Gothic. Gothic is an online jewelry outlet that makes handmade jewelry that's affordable without sacrificing aesthetics or quality. They have a large collection of products that range from rings, pendants, bracelets, and earrings that all come in a variety of different materials, sizes, and styles. When picking out jewelry, it's very important for me that the products I choose don't leave any green stains on my skin that you would normally get with cheaper products. That's why I really like the stainless steel options that Gothic provide. So if you're interested at all in Gothic, then be sure to check out the link in the description of this video and also get 20% off using the code DF20. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As you can see right now, your boy is wearing a wife beater because when I say it is warm in Ireland right now, like, it's ridiculously warm. Anyone who's over this, to be honest, I think the whole world is just suffering at the moment. I know it was like 39 degrees Celsius in the UK, in London today, specifically London. So like, that's absolutely unheard of for this side of the world. Ireland hit 33 yesterday, which is crazy considering we literally get like 5 days of hot weather a year, and for it to go that high is pretty insane. So I've been trying to get around to this video, but I've been trying to find a moment where it's somewhat bearable, but to be honest, the weather has not let up. Yesterday, like I said, was 33 degrees. Today's a little bit cooler, but it's still ridiculous. Normally it would be fine, but it's when I'm closed in my office, I have the door locked, have all the shutters closed, the PC's on, the camera's on, the lights are on, so it gets very warm very quickly. So I've got the fan pointing directly at the camera. I've got no other air circulation in the room, so we probably don't have long to film. So I'm not going to do too much of an intro on this one. Today, we're going to be reacting to Whitechapel Kin. This won the previous Patreon poll. That leads me on to my point to just thank all the current patrons. We have over 60 patrons at the moment, lads. So we are getting close to 100 already, which is absolutely amazing. You guys are showing unbelievable support over there. It is so much appreciated. I can't stress it enough. So without any further ado, lads, we're going to jump into this one. I don't know much about Whitechapel. I know they've been quite popular in terms of requests. I've never covered any music of theirs on the channel. I believe they used to be like a deathcore band, like really heavy deathcore, but now they've moved into a more melodic sound. It's really unique. Apparently they've gone a completely different direction. Apparently this album was one of the best albums of 2021. Who knows? The album's called Kin. I believe the artwork is quite significant. So actually, Alex did leave a comment on one of my videos, so I'm gonna read it out. This album is a continuation of their previous record, The Valley, in both lyrics and sound. Sonically, this album is more experimental and diverse, introducing lots of emotional clean vocals compared to the extremely brutal past efforts. Lyrically, Kin continues to deal with Phil Bozeman's childhood traumas. He lost both of his parents at a young age. His father passed away from suffering a cardiac arrest. Sometime after his loss, his mother ended up marrying a terrible guy that got her addicted to drugs, which ultimately led to her overdosing and passing away as well. It's clear from the lyrics that Phil feels a lot of hatred towards his stepdad and blames him for the death of his mother. Revolver magazine published an interview with Phil which sums up Kin's storyline up best and is worth reading. The two twin-like faces on its cover art represent two different sides of Bozeman. His current self, the one who triumphed after experiencing unimaginable heartbreaking loss before he was old enough to drive, and the person he believes he could have become, an asshole or just a piece of shit. Bozeman clarifies. Kin is a duel between those two selves, a metaphorical showdown between survival and decay, an intermediate parable about perseverance more than anything else. So shout out to Alex for that comment. Again, summed up, it sounds like they've gone from a musical standpoint. Obviously there's a lot of meaning to this album from a story standpoint, but musically, from a first listen, I'm listening out for that melody with the deathcore past. So guys, I said I was going to keep the intro short. I've absolutely failed to do so. Without any further ado, we're going to jump in. Make sure you drop a like on this video, whether it be a highlight video because I don't know if it's going to get blocked, or if it's the full album reaction, then please do drop a like on it. It'd be much appreciated. And let's go. Genuinely not the start I was expecting at all. Okay, strangely enough, straight away, I know we're only first track in, but people have been very high on this album, not just for themselves, but people are like, Drew, you will love this album. And so far, I know it's very early days. The album's 47 minutes or so long, and I'm giving it very little time. And I'm not judging, I'm just pointing out the facts. Blast beats are something that I've never been a big fan of. Obviously, we've got an intro with blast beats, and then this overall sound, this is very deathcore-y still to me. Now, I know obviously people have mentioned that they've come a long way. You know, they've implemented a lot of new bits into their style, but straight away this has me kind of thinking, have people misread me, or is there going to be a lot more to this album? Because I'll be honest, if it continues in this style, I don't know what I'm going to think. So look, I know it's early days and I don't want to be like already making my mind up, but let's just see. But for some reason the this isn't syncing, so let me just bring it back to here. There we go. Okay, cool. Let's bring it back here a bit. I heard the blast beats and I was a little bit like, okay, is this what we're gonna get for the whole album? For some reason it kind of reminds me of Opeth and Infant Annihilator together. That's my initial vibe that I'm getting from this. I don't know why, but that's just the first thing that's come to my head.
I always feel like there's something that I left behind.
Oh, I like this.
It's not a possession, any acceptance of mine.
A little bit more up my street here.
It's me.
Okay, right.
When you don't know who you are, I'll always be one step behind until you realize who I am. I think I closed its final time as I have walked.
Okay, I'm going to quickly stop. Right, first impressions, like I said at the start, I don't really need to mention my initial thoughts. I was kind of like, okay, this is like not what I expected based on the comments. It is literally like that sound that I've always been a little bit iffy with. Definitely have come around to it a lot more over the past few months or even the last year or so, just with some of the heavier music I've actually listened to. But I think that reminded me of Opeth. I think the vocals sounded like Opeth, and then some of the drum work reminded me of some of Infant Annihilator songs. I don't know if that's actually a relevant connection to make, but it's what sprung to my mind. So I suppose if that's what's springing to my mind, that's what's springing to my mind. I suppose it can't really be disproven. So but yeah, and then at the end there was the guitar solo after the cleans, which is definitely a savior for me in a track like that, because there was no real appeal to me initially in the track. Like I said, I've already mentioned all those points about the blast beats and stuff. They just still really haven't clicked with me. And then we got the solo after the clean segment. So the solo kind of reminded me of some of the parts of Tempest by Tool, that amazing guitar work by Adam Jones. Some of the guitar work reminded me of that. So some comparisons there straight off the bat. I know it's sometimes some people don't agree with comparisons, but it's just my initial thoughts on what I'm hearing. So let's move on to Lost Boy. Start with every band sounding like Tool lately. Okay, I'm not going to make the mistake that I made in the last video with Era, or not the last video, the video before last. We reacted to Era's self-titled album, Era, and if you guys haven't checked out the community section or seen anything like that, basically I mentioned how one of the riffs in House of Glass reminded me of Vicarious by Tool, and I supplemented my commentary with a 9-second clip of Vicarious by Tool, just to supplement what I was talking about, because one of the riffs reminded me of that. And basically the 2-hour-long video got blocked by YouTube, and it wouldn't allow me to trim out the segment because I used a 9-second clip of Tool. So I've learned my lesson. I will never, ever, ever use a Tool clip when I reference Tool again, but that's not going to stop me from referencing Tool. So I just thought here that the delay segment on the guitar reminded me of what track is that? It's Schism. It's Schism. And then not only that, I was like, okay, right, sounds like Schism. Why is my voice not working? Sounds like Schism. And then he kind of sounded like Maynard in the vocals as well. So definitely another Tool reference. That sounds like Maynard. But up until this point, it sounded nothing like Tool. It reminded me of Between the Buried and Me, but it just kept swapping between different like crazy tempo changes. Okay. So lyrically, it does make a little bit more sense, obviously, after reading Alex's comments that I mentioned at the start of the video. I'm assuming, I can only assume, after getting the brief introduction to his childhood and that kind of thing, and the album cover work with the two skulls facing each other, he's obviously going back and forth, you know, mentioning "you are mine forever." So I think he's actually referring to his other self, or the person he could have become at one point. Maybe I'm misinterpreting that, but based on Alex's comment, I'd imagine that's what that's going on about. But as for the tempo change, and that was a lot. I did mention there, I touched on it briefly, that the start of that track reminded me of Between the Buried and Me, just because of how much it was jumping and swapping tempos, and it was so unpredictable. But again, I gotta be honest, there was nothing that, like, I'm not a big fan of that like that snare pattern. I don't know if, I don't know, like, let me bring it back slightly and just like, I kind of get stuck in this, like, do I go with the snare pattern, like, I just feel like it's kind of annoying to actually try and follow. I get, obviously, you know, see, I'm very groove related, very tempo related. I like to be able to kind of move with the track, and I feel like when I'm doing that, I just feel really awkward doing it. So I don't know, maybe there's another way to follow it. Maybe you guys can let me know, but it just always, when I hear, because I heard it in the start of the intro track, kind of hurt. I was like, oh, this is gonna be one of them albums where it's just like a lot of so maybe that'll change. But I do like a lot of the instrumentation. It's just not really grooving with me. They are very technical, I can hear that. I like the vocals, I like the clean vocals. The harsher vocals, hit or miss to me. But yeah, let's move on to the next track, which is A Blood-Soaked Symphony. But I believe I think I've seen that name pop up, Lost Boys. So I think that was one of their more popular tracks. So not bad. You can hear, like, it's a deathcore band that have progressed. Okay, so from a musical standpoint, straight away, that is a lot easier for me to follow. And naturally, that's just my kind of music. I click with that a lot more. I understand that is very deathcore, and you know, a lot of people love that. I've been very vocal about that in the past, where I'm not the biggest fan. But this, I can fuck with a lot more. Just caught my eye the lyrics, because I have the lyrics up on the other screen, so I'm not really looking at the lyrics. I'm kind of like looking at myself on this screen and the lyrics over here. So I looked over and I just quickly caught, I crawled through the nether and left a suicide letter next to my own severed head. I think I should be dead, but that's the beauty of selling yourself to sin. But again, we are men craving winter's end, wishing to live within our origin again. Yeah, so these are lyrics that, again, are not very surface level. You can't just like look at them and be like, oh, that's what he means. In context of the entire album, I'd have to properly sit down and look at it, but it is interesting to see how descriptive it is, and it does set the tone and the emotion to the album. So yeah, we'll continue on, but I definitely fuck with this track a lot more than the previous two, purely because I can just, you know, it's kind of a more a stank face track. Hard lyrics, guys. Yeah, now we're talking. I can feel the devil's presence. He never left this house. Now I can live my burnt and fantasy. Flow straight to me. Drain every last drop from his arteries. Yeah, that's me. That's all it is. See, I can really appreciate the blast beats a lot more when they're kind of just like background noise to this groovier, easier to headbang segment. Because otherwise, I don't like when it's just a blast beat. It's just like for the sake of it, and you feel like you're just fucking listening to white noise almost. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people really love blast beats, and I think if you are like really into the drumming scene and you're a drummer by trade, well, not by trade, but if your choice of instrument is drumming, then I think you'll appreciate that a lot more, because obviously it's very, you know, stamina. It requires a lot of stamina, a lot of skill, but I just don't know if it sounds very good, but I like this. The sound of his blood so symphony. Father, I pray that your hand is warm again. My pain will never end until you both come back to me. That reminds me of a riff. I don't know what it is. I can feel the devil. Is it Gojira? I think it's Gojira. I can live my burnt and fantasy. Flow straight to me. Drain every last drop from his arteries. A sacrifice of blood wakes the eye. He looks to turn this iron into gold. I place my hand upon the ancient tide. I surrendered my life. I bring the gift of resurrection. The Yeah, give me them riffs every day of the week. Every day of the week. Hold on, I don't know why that's not. Oh, never mind, it was updating, sorry. Yeah, riffs like that. That reminds me of Dan and Dan Dan and what riff is that? If anyone knows the riff I'm thinking of, I think it might be Gojira. Dan and Dan Dan and Dan Dan and Dan and oh, what is it? If I think of it, I'll when I'm editing, I'll put it on. Anti-core. Breaking Benjamin vibes a little bit. Definitely Breaking Benjamin. Oh yeah, this is real Breaking Benjamin, isn't it? Even that guitar. Okay, not so much. Imagine being a part of a band like Breaking Benjamin, for example, that's just so influential over the years that even like however many years on, like certain melodies, certain harmonies just instantly, and I've had this quite a lot recently with different bands that I've listened to, there's always, now whether or not it's intentional or not, it's just you associate a certain sound with a particular band, and that's just an absolute testament to the original band that I was referring to, in this case Breaking Benjamin. But it's also not a dig at bands that I might refer to, because Breaking Benjamin are absolutely unbelievable. If like Breaking Benjamin are one of my favorite bands, absolutely timeless band in my opinion. I've listened to them for fucking like the last 10 years, if not more. You know, even when I was a kid, when I didn't really actually listen to metal, I just always would have heard Breaking Benjamin in like, you know, Call of Duty montages and shit like that. So they are very early days one of my favorite metal bands, and to even hear just bands, whether or not it be intentional or not, just even hear them still sound like that in an album that was released in 2021 is just a testament to how good Breaking Benjamin were. But yeah, it just seems like recently I've been hearing a lot of comparisons to Breaking Benjamin, whether it be like a simple riff. This one, some of the kind of outro segments of some of the lines in the verses sound very similar to Breaking Benjamin, but then some of the riffs as well in this, or just even the kind of tuned down segments of some of the riffs sound very similar to Breaking Benjamin. So interesting. But Anticore was good. Or anti-core. Very Breaking Benjamin-esque, in my opinion. The one that's made us. If you couldn't already tell, I'm absolutely sweating here. You can see it on my face. This album definitely picking up. At the start, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like this.
You have no choice but to accept the thought of my presence. What became to me? My life is not where it was once supposed to be. I come to take it back. We can live within the past. A world won't save us. We can unite with the ones that made us. There isn't a reason to stay locked down in a wretched world when we can kill ourselves and return to the ones that made us. They're waiting for the boy that turned his home to ash. The boy who left his shield on the hill that he had sworn to die on. They're waiting for the boy to turn into a man, walk away from the hopeless world and back into the valley's mouth. They're waiting.
You see, this is funny because I've gotten to that point that I'm starting to realize my taste. It's, if we're going to go real deathcore with the vocals, I'd like to have the almost metalcore sounding riffs that I can groove to. And that's what we're getting here. So that's what appeals to me, okay? It has to be one or the other, in my opinion. Now, whether or not over time my opinion will change, I'm sure it will, because even now, like, you know, before, there's now certain riffs and shit that I'll listen to that I'm like, I would have fucking hated that a year ago. But even now, like this, for example, because I'm always trying to figure out, like, some people would say, but you like this band, so why don't you like this? Because it's very similar. Now I'm starting to hone in on exactly what it is that kind of, you know, keeps me ticking, keeps me going, keeps me enjoying music, is that it's either the melodic vocals, where it's maybe cleans, which this band obviously has. But then if we're going to go with the deathcore vocals, the really intense vocals, I want to hear some like groovy riffs that I can bounce along to. And that is exactly what I'm getting in this track. Vocals, hit and miss to me. If we were to take like blast beats on top of this vocal segment, I'd probably fucking hate it. But the fact that we're getting this kind of like, you know, what's the word? Unpredictable riff that's quite groovy and bouncy, it makes it a lot more fun.
Inside, you know that this is not what we were fighting for. They told me they need to feel you in their arms eternally. Take a look at the distance, imagine existence that doesn't consist of our uncertainty. Let the opium take us away to our own.
Sorry, I was paying attention to that. I was just typing out some notes because I actually forgot to bring a notepad and pen, because I did say that in my last video that as I go, I'm just going to start taking notes, because when it comes to the end of the video, when I'm wrapping up, it's so much to remember, like 45 minutes of content to try and like remember each track and be like, oh, I like this part about this track, I like this and this and this. So it's nice to be able to round up. So I have started taking notes over the last 2 tracks, just bullet points that I can speak of. So if you kind of notice me like doing this, I'm still very intently listening. I'm just also taking notes so I can have something, you know, a little bit more elaborate to speak about at the end of the video. But yeah, that one, I like the syncopation in that. There was some segments in it where the heavier guitar segments really synced up well with the vocal segments, and then like I said, the deathcore vocals made it a lot easier to listen to when there's these bouncy riffs that, you know, make me want to nod my head. So yeah, other than just like, you know, pure blast beats, you know, that I think they probably, I can hear from this band, and based on what you guys have said, that before those deathcore screams would have been mixed with like I can imagine like blast beats and just really like disgustingly loud, you know, almost no rhythm to it whatsoever, in my opinion. So I can imagine that's probably what their old sound was like. So I can see why this album has become very popular over the last year or so. So yeah, History is silent, very poetic.
The noise of a memory will fade, and the silence of history will stay. Another day, wishing to find myself with both in my grave. My darker thoughts are born again. It's not okay.
Kind of reminds me of Porcupine Tree a little bit of Steven Wilson. Oh yeah. Oh, this is gonna be my favorite on the album.
But summer came with more of the same old song that cuts so deep. It's sad to say, I crave my grave.
Are we gonna get an Ed Sheeran feature on this? No, we are not. Okay, I really want to bring that back. Sorry, that was my favorite part of the album so far. I really liked those vocals. The emotion displayed in that vocal segment, was along with the lyrics, beautiful. Almost radio-esque. That's why I mentioned Ed Sheeran.
The noise of a memory will fade, and the silence of history will stay. Another day, wishing to find myself with both in my grave. My darker thoughts are born again. It's not okay to have a knife in your chest and still be able to breathe. When will the air not feel so cold? And I dread December.
That is beautiful.
Summer days when we were young. But summer came with more of the same old song that cuts so deep. It's sad to say, I crave my grave.
Yes, this is what I wanted. I wanted this.
Beautiful you look tonight in this shallow grave. It's not deep enough. What's it like to be where the grass grass is always green. Remind me,
Oh, wow.
can't remember.
You guys gotta let me know if it's one vocalist or two vocalists. Okay. That definitely included my favorite moment in the album, but not my favorite track, I'd say. I would have probably liked to hear a little bit more clean segments, but look. Beautiful. Let me just get the sync back up because it's not really syncing. It's weird how it does that. I don't know why it stops syncing sometimes, but look. Yeah, I fucked with that a lot though. I really like the intro to that. And that'll grow me a lot. That's one of them tracks that'll grow me because I'll listen to that intro so much.
War is coming with me. Our only hope is tearing down the foundation of angelic sound. Lord, forgive this troubled man. He comes for what he lost, and he'll take every life until he's found. Lord, your tears, but your sweet odor, compulsion is inherited. Compassion can mend a broken man, but not beyond the point of the love you send. I have an urge to taste blood on my tongue. A burst in the woods, the whole world burn. The innocent child you once knew is dead. Is dead. So long, throw me to the walls. I'm a lost cause, drowning in the way I move. I'm way too deep in the thought of making my life miserable. Don't dwell on a worthless fight. We exist in a different light. The ancient blood calls out my name. War is coming with me. Our only hope is tearing down the foundation.
Very, very good example of where I think I would probably have just lost all interest in the album already at this point if it was a lot like this. Whereas the riffs right before was much the same vocals, but the snare pattern was so much different. Like even just here.
Blood on my tongue, a burst in the woods, the whole world burn. The innocent child you once knew is dead.
You know, like I know if that feels comfortable to me and it just feels like I can actually groove to it, which, as you guys know, being a dead horse is very important to me when I listen to music. So then we move on like a few seconds and we're just completely engulfed in the same deathcore vocals, but also with blast beats, which just like I just feel like I'm being fucking sucked into some warp hole and I don't even know what to do. I just feel like it's just noise to me. And I get that a lot of people love that sound. I just still haven't found any need for it in my musical journey, so to speak.
War is coming.
again, kind of hit and miss with that one because it did have segments that I could really fuck with, but then it just loses me a little bit with the blast beats. So completely divided on that one. But I feel like, again, not that I'm really like actively trying to get into the deathcore genre. It's just something that I've never really fucked with massively. There is bands that I've listened to, you know, they've had tracks and they've had moments within tracks that I've really liked, but I just have this thing with blast beats and that sound overall that just never really appeals to me. But I feel like this album probably serves as a good gateway into deathcore if you were actually actively trying to get into it a little bit more. And maybe, you know, even if I'm not actively trying to do it, there's some tracks on this that I'd obviously go back and listen to. That's generally how you start to enjoy heavier music, is that it might have elements of a genre or a subgenre of metal that you already like. And then before you know it, you're kind of listening to that song because it has those other segments, those subgenres within the track. And then you find yourself just playing the next track. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? That actually blends quite nicely into that. I'll listen to the next track now. And before you know it, a few listens later, and you're listening to the whole album from start to finish. So I know that's a very like specific scenario, but I found myself doing it before, you know, certain tracks that I maybe never really fucked with on a first listen. And then, you know, just by default, the next track on the album you're kind of listening to and you're like, oh, all right. And then all of a sudden you love it. So who knows? But I feel like if there was ever going to be an album that did get me into deathcore, it would probably be this, because it's like 50-50 at the moment. It's like parts I really fuck with and I really like. And then there's also parts that I'm just like, yeah, this is, you know, there's nothing new here. I knew I didn't really like this sound, but that's just as honest as I can possibly be. Orphan. This could be heavy lyrically. Not that the rest of the album hasn't been, but like this one in particular.
It's just the way it is. How did I find myself to be so pitiful and vulnerable? And I lay my head upon an empty heartbeat. I'm alone, I'm miserable. It's just the way that it is, and it's hopeless now. I'll never leave the prison inside my head. No one will ever understand the way it feels to shut out the emotion that drives me back to you. Is that your voice that I hear? Is that the touch that I had once feared? Is that...
Was this album very divisive for Whitechapel fans when it first came out? Because if they've just been purely deathcore from, you know, all the way up to this point, I'd imagine a lot of fans are probably like, why didn't we just get a full deathcore album? Or was this massively accepted? I know it seems to be quite, you know, a big album in 2021, but I'd imagine that's because a lot of fans that maybe weren't that into deathcore probably got into it as well, and then, you know, could appreciate both styles, whereas maybe fans who were, you know, true diehard deathcore fans maybe weren't the biggest fan of this. But let me know.
way that you look now? Is this what we are? Cynical me, beckoning for company. An illusion that I dream of in a nightmare. What do I care? If you're here and there's nothing left inside of your hollow shell, I'm still alone. I'm
it is nice to get those breaks in an album. Like again, I feel like, you know, I don't want to oversay it, but if that was just to be pure deathcore for the whole thing, I probably wouldn't be able to stick the full pace. So it's nice. It just, I feel like it does make you appreciate the like blast beats a little bit more. And maybe that's what will get me. Like, you know, when it's not continuously blasting your head in, I feel like, you know, scattered through the tracks nicely, you know, not overdoing it, I think makes you have a little bit more appreciation for it. Me anyway, because I know some people are probably just like, just fucking give me blast beats for the whole 47 minutes. But obviously that's not what I'm looking for. But we must be getting pretty close. It's only a minute long. I think there's 2 tracks after this, and I believe the final track is Kin. I am unbelievably sticky right now. As disgusting as that sounds, I don't know how the camera hasn't died yet, lads. I'm gonna check the temperature. Okay, it says 23 degrees. I know you guys are probably like, Drew, you're a massive pussy, but trust me, in here it's got to be at least 30. Again, the syncopation there kind of reminds me of Monuments. They do that in Cardinal Red, where the guitars are synced up with the vocals. I feel like we're due like a massive fucking outro in this album, whether it be in this track or in Kin for the outro. It's got to be in Kin because it's the title track.
I'm alone again, just what I'm used to. I'm here, bound to the ancient God. The portal is shut, locked, no way out. This is home, this isn't home. It's hell with a lovely face. The master decides the truth that controls our fate. Take a look around, my friend. That part of our life is dead. So tell me, where will we be in the years to come? I know somewhere inside you is me, crying out for help, but I'm right here with you, begging you to see the hell we created. I know it's hard to accept the truth, but it's time to let this all
There it is. I was expecting to do that again. Okay, right. I think we're going into Kin, which is the final track on the album. But yeah, it still kind of reminds me of Between the Buried and Me, but just it's a little bit unpredictable. There's certain things that I feel like are going to happen, but then they don't happen, and I'm kind of like, oh, it keeps you on your toes a little bit. It makes it very interesting. Very engaging to listen to because you're kind of like, I know it's coming. Oh, wait, I don't. And then what you thought was coming happens a few seconds later.
Remember when we used to be inseparable, and the late nights sitting by the fire. We'd fall asleep knowing we would wake up by each other's side. We never had the fear that we were losing time. Remember the sound of the voice that would call our name. A sense of comfort fell upon our heart. Now the voice fades in the distance. A life changed in an instant. And I can't look at you because it's tearing me apart.
Piano and acoustic from a deathcore band.
And I know.
And these vocals.
You want us to be together, and I know it's hard to accept forever. Our delusion is the easy way out, but it's time for both of us to let this go. I didn't mean to hold you back from moving on. I understand that we can't keep going on like this. Can I just have one last moment to say goodbye? I need to feel them against me one last time. And I know you want us to be together. And I know it's hard to accept forever. Our delusion is the easy way out, but it's time for both of us to let this go.
we're going to get slow outro. Slow outro it is. Slow outro. Okay, like definitely the this won't sound like a compliment because it really is picking the best of a bad bunch in my opinion, but that's my favorite deathcore album, if you even want to call it that. I know maybe it's not really a deathcore album, so to speak. There's a lot of different elements that go on in that, but it's definitely my favorite album from a deathcore band, because let's be honest, I think Whitechapel would always be considered a deathcore band despite the direction that they've gone in with this album, until, you know, they've put out a few more projects that maybe do stray away from deathcore. But I'd be interested to know what the general consensus is or was when this album first came out, around the time, you know, when it originally dropped. Was there you know, a lot of confusion? Were people annoyed? I'd imagine they dropped singles beforehand. Let me know which singles dropped before, and then I can kind of piece together, oh yeah, I can imagine that didn't go down well. And because obviously there's some tracks that are a lot more heavily influenced by the deathcore sounds that they would have come up with, so I'd imagine maybe if they drop some of them, people would be like, you know, new album coming out. But if they drop some of the other tracks that were a lot more melodic, you know, had some of the more clean vocal segments and not a lot of the, you know, deathcore blast beats and that kind of thing, I'd imagine that would be a shock to the system, to the people who, you know, really wanted that style from Whitechapel. So fill me in on all that kind of thing. Another thing I'd be curious to know about is the actual vocalist. Is there one vocalist? Because I know with Era, obviously they have the two vocalists, and that was something that was kind of not a surprise, but if I had to listen to it without knowing going into it, I would have thought that there was just two vocalists. Oh, sorry, there was one vocalist doing both cleans and the harsher vocals, but obviously in Era's case, they have the two vocalists. So yeah, guys, fill me in and all that kind of side of things. As for my thoughts on the album, if I had to rate it out of 10, first listen, for what it is, for the fact that it is a very experimental album from a band like Whitechapel, that are apparently a band that have come from deathcore roots, I would give that album a solid 7 on a first listen. Now, not all the tracks are for me. I wouldn't give it a 7 purely based on how much I'd actually go back to it, because 7's quite high, to be honest. You know, 7's an album that I could definitely fuck with and go back to a lot. There's definitely tracks that I'll, you know, listen to again, and I'm sure I'd have to listen to the album in its entirety a few more times to really digest and see which tracks are really going to stick with me. But from what I've taken down, Anticore is very Breaking Benjamin vibes heavy. The Ones That Made Us is, again, I mentioned the great syncopation in that, the, you know, the segments, and there was actually some more of that in the one of the last tracks. It might have been in Without Us, before, you know, Kin came in. Some of the tracks were, like I said earlier on, very, the riffs were very deathcore, but the vocals were lighthearted, or not lighthearted, but they were a lot cleaner. So it made the segments of the deathcore that I don't normally like when they're mixed together. So for example, when you have the harsh vocals, the real deathcore vocals, and the deathcore instrumentals, you know, deathcore, I really don't fuck with that at all. I just don't like it. But if you take one element from, you know, what I do like, so say for example they use groovier riffs, but they also had the deathcore screams and the deathcore vocals, I really fuck with that. That is a lot easier and a lot more appealing to me. Or if they use the deathcore like blast beats and that heavy kind of fucking wall of sound, but they also use like a melody in it with the vocals, then I can fuck with it. So they did that very, very well. It made the blast beat segments and the actual really deathcore sound a lot more listenable to me, because you know it's not going to be like this for the next 5 minutes straight. So that was one thing. History is Silent, again, that was probably my favorite track from off the top of my head. I did mention Ed Sheeran. I meant more so just from like a pop standard. It was very, you know, very melodic, had a lot of elements that I really like with the vocal style of things. Again, it made the massive wall of sound, that really deathcore like drop or breakdown, I don't even know what you want to call it, because it's not really like a breakdown, it's just this big wall of sound that crushes you. That was a lot easier to listen to when it comes from a place of like, you know, this melody, and then, you know, you're going to get like a minute of that and then it's back into melody. So I think the structures of the songs feel a lot more familiar to me, you know, because I feel like a lot of the deathcore tracks that I've heard in the past just feel like they're just one big wall of sound, and there's not really a lot of traditional structure to it. I know a lot of people will break that down and say, well, there is structure because this and this, but, you know, I'm coming from a more traditional background when it comes to my enjoyment of music. So yeah, other than that, I mean, I fuck with the album. Again, I'll give it a 7. That could, you know, change over time. You know, it might go down, it might go up, but I think for what it is, it's definitely a 7 for me anyway. A lot of people had hyped that up, said I would really fuck with it, and I get the angle now, because when I first listened to the first few tracks, I was kind of like, okay, you know, the intro wasn't probably the best representation of what the album has in it, but I can definitely see what you guys were talking about now. So look, I won't leave it much longer there, guys. I'm actually going to pass out with the heat in this room. I'm absolutely sweating. Okay, my hair doesn't really represent it. I don't look that sweaty. But yeah, guys, look, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please drop a like in this video. If you have not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe. A lot of the people who watch this channel aren't actually subscribed. There's a fun fact for you. I think that's the majority of YouTube channels. People, the recommendations are so good that people don't actually need to subscribe, because generally, if you watch a lot of my videos, I'll keep popping up in the recommendations. But it would be nice if you could hit the subscribe button. Patreon will be in the description of this video, guys. Please do get involved. It's the best way to directly support me as a creator. Anything else to think of? Not really, guys. I'm going to post the Patreon poll for the next album reaction that we do straight away after this, so it'll already be up. Whether or not we've already gotten to that one, I'm probably going to like put the deadline tomorrow. Usually I give it a few days, but I think I want to get another video recorded and ready to be edited as soon as possible. So yeah, guys, I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you so much for watching. I'm signing out. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves.
You have no choice but to accept